friends, welcome back to Art as a Hobby. I'm Marsha, and today we're going to be exploring something a little different. So we're going to talk about how watercolor paints and watercolor markers compare and see how beautifully they can work for you. Whether you're a beginner or just looking to try something new, this video is for you. So let's start with just the basics. Watercolor paints. What different formats can they come in? So as you can see by the assortment I have laid out here, you can see that we have these that are half pans. So these are solid and you have to use water to activate them, to get them to start coming up soft and coloring. And these are actually metallic ones. We also have tubes of watercolor paints. So these you would open up and squeeze a little bit out onto your palette. Or you could also use these to refill the pans in your palette. Many of you are familiar with these smaller palettes. These allow you to have half pans of paint and a mixing tray. So you could use these as mixing areas of certain colors, sit and weights, all different kinds of options with these. And these are really good if you're going to be on the go and you're painting in plein air. That's a great way to go. Some other plein air ideas is you can add your water to this brush. It gives you a little spot to clean out your brush. And then each of these colors, you open up and there is the colors for you from that palette. And you can see this lets you take a lot of different colors with you if you're going to be going out and doing some plein air painting. Okay. And then there's also watercolor pencils. So these are great for adding detail into your watercolor paintings, like vines or the dots on leaves, getting some of that movement that you can see with these watercolor pencils. Then these are the watercolor markers, and these markers come in quite a few different colors here. You can see with the angle of the light, you can see that there's all different kinds. And if I pull one out here, you'll be able to see that they look just like a regular marker. And this one is gray, and you'll see it has a brush tip to it. Okay. That one's gray. So we're going to put that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a couple of blues, actually, because I love working with blue. One of my favorite things is the ocean. So I'm going to pull out a couple of blue and teal markers, just so we can see how these work together. I'll set this to the side. Okay. And then these are probably the first type of watercolor paints you used. Back when I was a child, we would always get these kind of little tubes of things to paint by color, or our parents would pick these up so that we could paint our own pictures. So those are really the first watercolors that a lot of people use in school and at home. So we do have those. And I also have my primary palette, which is quite a few. So this is by Nick Pro. And when I was first starting out with coloring with watercolor and getting interested in it, I found this cheaply on Temu. And so this came, and it also came with a set of brushes for Nick Pro, like these. And it came with a set of, I think, 6 brushes. And it was all under $25 at the time. And I've been using these for quite a while. The reason I like them is because they already have the variegated colors. So that when I first started out, I didn't understand color mixing. And so it was important that I had different shades. These also have a set of metallic and a section of neons and a section of pastels. So it really gives me the gambit of whatever I'm painting today. I can use the different colors and things. And these have lasted really well. You won't need much paint unless you're getting it for a specific project, because there are a lot of pigment within it. And pigment is really the thing that changes a good quality paint to a cheaper alternative paint. If you're going to be doing a lot of washes, like wet on wet techniques, you're going to want to use the regular, more expensive paints. So they come in a set if you do want a set of them, or you can buy them individual colors as well. When you get a lower cost pack like these, you'll find that as you add more water to them, they almost disappear. So the wash gets very, very light. And that's because there's not a lot of pigment in it. When you start getting into the more expensive paints, like these Daniel Smith, these will last for a while before they break down in color. They will last really, really well with them. Lots of water to do the big washes over skies or oceans. So that's the difference really between your cheaper and your more expensive paints, is really the content of them with the pigment for the color that you're going for. So I'm going to set those aside, and then I'm going to go ahead and get a piece of paper here so you can see how each of these work on your page. So grab my notebook, and today I am using a sketchbook. This is the Canson XL watercolor workbook. It's 7 by 10, 140 pounds, and it is cold pressed paper. And if you don't know which paper to use, look back on my channel and I have a video all about different types of papers used for watercolor. Okay, so first I'm going to start out with just a brush, and this is just blue. Okay, nice simple color, and you'll see how the brush delivers the color, just nice and calm, nice straight lines. It's really good for filling in spaces, right? Say you want to make a thick section for a leaf, right? We can move it around the paper, get all these dots to go different spots. We can use wet on wet, all of that with a brush. And there's different size brushes, which I think that's one of the benefits over the pens, is that you can have better control of the size and shape of your thing. The other benefit of watercolor paints is that they're more traditional, but you can mix them into so many different colors. By even having a set of just 3 or 4 colors, you can really mix quite a few different colors with the paints. And that's one of the uniqueness, right, of your drawing or your picture. If I was to draw an ocean and I used only the direct pan paints, and I don't do anything to change the color of them or change the directions of them, things like that, anybody else could paint that same painting that I did. But if I'm mixing like 2 different blues, or a blue and a yellow to make more of a greenish part of my ocean, then you start seeing those uniqueness, those unique colors that you come up with. And that's what sets your art apart from a lot of other people. But painting does take a longer to dry. You can say it's starting to dry, but for that to be really dry, it's going to take a while. The other problem with paints is you have to carry water with you and brushes, right? So if you're trying to go out and about and do plein air paintings, it's more difficult with having to take a brush and take water to clean the brush, take paper towels to clean up the messes. So a lot of times when you do plein air, you may not want to use the paints. So that's where the watercolor markers come into play. Now, it does have a brush tip, so I can make a thin line. Okay, I can make very thin details. And I can also press it down to get a little bit of a dimension to it, because it does act like a round brush, like a detail brush. So this is good because, for instance, where I have paint here already and I have these different circles, I can go around them with my watercolor marker to make those edges more defined. And it gives me more detail of making these lines around it. Okay. So you can see here with just a few swipes, I can make circles all the way around that. Okay. And that's where you really have that precise control, and you really do get quite vibrant colors, a lot more than with the brushing. And then if we take our pencil, let me use we'll use a brown pencil so you can see good. And so the watercolor pencil, you can make very detailed lines, right? Just like if you were drawing with colored pencil. Very thin lines. You can color and shade just like you do, where you hold it back further, you get a little bit lighter of a color, just like a colored pencil. Or if you come up closer, it gets a little bit thicker. And then you can always do hatching like you would with a regular color. Now, the reason why these are watercolors is because if I take a plain brush, let me grab a clean one, and I just get it wet, I can go over these to blend them. So as it gets the water, you can see a lot of those little definitions and things can come away, so it looks more like a watercolor. So this is good if you're trying to really get detail oriented and make sure that you know where colors are. Now, like I said, you can always combine them, right? Like this one, if we wanted to take that black pencil, we could come in here and make lines across these circles, right? And look at how quickly they show up, just being a pencil, showing that down, right? So you can see those real clearly. So when you want to get detailed, like if you're doing fur maybe for an animal and you don't want it to be washed out, you can come back in and just draw over top of it and make it into layers. This is a really great technique when you're doing all those little fur, is to use the color down. Like maybe I use, like if I'm doing an ocean spot, right? I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do a little wet on wet. So I'm gonna go ahead and wet this area a little bit. And maybe I wanna use this brown within the water to create the shape of the sand, right? Because I like nice soft sand. Okay. So that will become my sand. And I like it just a little bit jagged, so I'm gonna bring it a little bit down into that coloring. Okay. I'm gonna add my blues right up and along here. There we go. And you can see now I have these blues floating with my wet on wet. I can just gently go up in and get some of them. But you see, if I try to go in, I'm kind of muddying up the water because I have my bigger brush. So now I can take my smaller marker, my blue one, and just gently bring these up into here. I can color with my marker. It can even be part of the wet on wet, so you can see the different shades that it gives that water automatically. And I can just add this little detail in here. And you can see the difference between without the marker and with the marker. That little bit lighter blue. So it's really good to be able to bring things together. So I hope this has inspired you to play with both paints and markers. You don't have to choose. So art isn't about the rules, it's about the expression. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more beginner-friendly art tutorials. And let me know in the comments, do you prefer paints, markers, pencils? Have a great day.